Hey there, I'm making this video about this tractor and this mower and the 3-point hitch setup on it because a few people had some questions. So the tractor is a 1955 Allis Chalmers B. I've had this tractor for quite a while, about 10 years now, and I'm the one that did the restoration on it. There's a couple other videos on that, some walk around and some picture slideshows of the restoration process and when I first got it. So the tractor has what I believe is a cross manufacturing 3-point hitch. I believe that's the manufacturer of it. I got the hitch secondhand from another tractor that I had bought and resold, and it works okay. On these tractors, they were never designed to have a 3-point hitch, and when you look at where the pole arm is located, it's almost completely behind the rear wheel, and that causes a lot of leverage on the tractor. Usually when you see where the pole arm connects, you'll see it up closer to the center line of the rear wheels, but on these tractors it's not exact. It's possible, but it's not easily retrofitted like this kit is. So what that does is when you put a mower, especially one that's this long, the tractor wants to pick the front end off the ground. So if you look at how I've got this attached, this is just a 5-foot wide brush cutter, but the rear wheel, I have it set so the rear wheel always rides on the ground. It'll almost, if the 3-point's all the way up, it will pick the mower up, but at that point you're kind of steering with the brakes, even though this tractor has the optional front side engine weights. So that's kind of the main disadvantage of this hitch, is it really causes some issues as far as how much you can pick up. The second thing that you're going to notice a lot with these tractors and this hitch is, number one, the hitch is going to move very slowly because these are a very small flow pump on them, and additionally the pump, which on these tractors is located right here, is only operational when the power takeoff in the belt pulley gearbox is engaged. So when you're running a mower like this, you have to pay attention to when you have it up or down, because if you have it in an area where you need to raise the mower, you can't raise the mower without engaging the PTO, so the mower is spinning the entire time. So that's not great. If you don't have a power takeoff driven implement, say you have a cultivator or a carryall or a dirt scoop or any numerous 3-point implement that doesn't require power takeoff, it works pretty good, but the power takeoff is not live, the pumps are not live, so you have to have the clutch engaged for it to work. If you push the clutch in on these tractors, the 3-point hitch will not raise or lower because the power takeoff is not live. So a little bit about how the hitch works. It attaches right here on each point of the drawbar on the back. Your drawbars are adjustable. I have the swinging drawbar on mine, but there's enough slop in everything that it'll take up the space. You may even have to add shims depending on how your tractor is. It seems like, you know, some tractors have these upper braces warped a little, so, or even maybe the manufacturer makes this piece kind of in a loose tolerance, so it may be up or down a bit. The upper portion attaches with essentially 2 pillow block style mounts, one on each side, and they bolt through the upper seat frame, or, well, I guess you would call this a fender mount. They bolt to the upper fender mount, so you have a bolt here, here, one on the other side, and one on each side below. This upper shaft is really stout. I've had other style hitches like this that didn't have, this is a solid bar, and it's got to be probably close to 1.5 inches in diameter, because your top link bracket attaches right to the middle of the bar, so it's got to be pretty stout. But I've had another style of these hitches where that bar was not as big and it bent the hitch, and someone had to reinforce this by welding another bar to the front. If you do run a power takeoff driven implement, you're probably going to want an overrunning clutch. So when you push the clutch in on these tractors, the power takeoff is going to stop. But this overrunning clutch allows, let me engage the PTO. It allows the clutch and the PTO drive shaft of the implement to continue free spinning without having the power takeoff of the tractor running. So what happens is, if you don't have that clutch, and say you're brush hogging up to a ditch or something, or even near trees, and you push the clutch in, the rotary momentum of this mower and all the blades is going to keep spinning and drive your tractor into whatever you want. It makes it very difficult to stop. You can't stop as quickly. And with this setup, you can stop quickly, and then you can even switch between forward and reverse without the mower completely stopping. If you don't have that overrunning clutch and you take it out of gear, this is going to power the transmission, and you have to wait until this spins all the way down or really close before you can put it back into gear to reverse or go forwards. Now the hydraulic cylinder on this, it mounts here, and it's mounted in a way that it floats, which I think is nice, because this is just power up, so you don't need the rigidity of like power up, power down. It's not going to do you any good anyhow. So this piece here can pivot up and down, or you can look at it as this piece can pivot off of the cylinder. The cylinder mounts to the lower two right hand final drive mounts. So you have to take the factory studs out, take these nuts and the studs, these are just threaded into the casting, and you replace it with these square headed bolts, and there's a nut on each side, and that holds the lower bracket on. You do have to drain the transmission fluid because those studs go all the way through, so drain it before you put this on, or otherwise you're going to get a bath in oil when you pull those studs out. Like I mentioned, the flow is pretty low on these pumps, and this kit originally came with a -4 line with pipe threads, and it restricted the flow even more than what the output of the pump was. So this spot here on the pump housing was -4 pipe, but when you added a -4 line with a -4 pipe size, it restricted it from around 1/4 inch to, it had to be near an 1/8 inch hole in the fittings. And that may vary from manufacturer, but that's what it was here. And with hopes of trying to speed the hitch up a little bit, I put a -6 line on here, and these tractors will run a higher pressure, I think around 3,000 psi, so make sure you're getting a decent line. This one I believe is 5,800 psi rated, so your safety factor in that is much higher, so you're plenty safe. So this is like 5,800 operating, and it has a 1/4 inch, so it has -6 JIC fittings, and the through hole in that fitting is the same size as the pump housing, so there's no restriction here, in hopes to allow the hitch to operate a little quicker. I don't know if it really helped at all, but that's something that I've done. Now the hitch, I'm a fabricator, so I kind of pick it apart as far as quality goes. I would put the quality about a 5 or 6 out of 10. It's not perfect, but it's not going to fall apart either. But you're going to see a lot of stuff like this, just welds that are incomplete, rough, sharp corners. I've had other cross manufacturing parts in the past. I'm almost certain this is a cross manufacturing hitch. There's no identification on it, but I believe they pretty much make all the current aftermarket hitches like this, and they all seem to have the same style. You'll run into like just you know, sheared and bent. They cut these on like an iron worker and then bend them over something and put them together. This one, these arms are adjusted at the same length, and this rod here, you can see with the thread is all the way down, so you could adjust it for height. But this one over here, whatever they cut that thread off of, there's no threads at the bottom. So that's as high as that one goes, and that's about as long as that one goes. So you're really kind of out of adjustment. I guess maybe there's a thought, if you wanted to run a plow on this tractor, you could lower that one and raise this one, and that would give you the pitch. Maybe there's some thought behind it. I'm not really sure. But it works. It's just there's some crude parts to it, put it that way. And one thing that I had to address, this is a category 1 hitch, category 1 mower, but these top arms would come out. You can see how it's twisted there now. They were bending outward because these originally were at an angle instead of being square, so your lift arm could come down. They were actually kicked in, so the opposite of what the arm wants to do as it's swinging out. So there was binding at this ball, there was binding down here on the hitch, and it was actually bending these arms out, because if you would try to swing this mower or something, it couldn't. It had like no play at all in it, and it was bending these top arms. So I heated this up right along here on a diagonal in hopes that the arm would not twist in the future, because it was already, it wasn't vertical, it was twisted at an angle. So it already, I don't know why they would do that, why they wouldn't just mount them vertical, but I twisted it, and that seems to have taken care of it, lining this top attachment point, getting it back essentially, I guess, parallel with the lower lift and pull arm. I did that on both sides, and that seems to have helped a lot. But other than that, the hitch works. It makes these tractors a lot more usable than they were from the factory, you know, so you can use modern equipment if you have a couple tractors. You don't have to buy like the plow or drag discs or mounted cultivators for this. You can just use 3-point hitch mounted implements. It's not going to be near the performance of like a modern compact tractor, but you know, if you don't want to spend a lot of money, you can buy one of these tractors. I believe the hitches you can buy for like $600, so for a couple of $1,000 you could outfit one of these to get the job done for you. Or maybe you have your grandfather's tractor and you want to use it some. These hitches would allow that. One note on the overrunning clutch though, these are very sloppy, and this has been every single one I've used or seen. Let me see if I can get it. So that's all play within the overrunning clutch. The inside fits on the tractor shaft just fine, but the slop is in the outside. And what I've noticed is when you're running this mower, you'll get a swing in the shaft, and it'll throw a vibration into the tractor. It doesn't really flop back and forth, but it picks a side and then swings around, and it's off balance, which I don't like at all. And I may tear this clutch apart and see if I can make an internal bushing or something that will tighten that up. Now for the mower, I didn't buy this new. I'm not sure how old it actually is. It's in pretty good condition. It's a 60-inch cut made by Service Equipment Company in Dallas, Texas. I'm not sure if they're still in business or not. A couple people asked about it. It's a pretty nice mower. It's a dual swinging blade setup. The nice part of it is if you have taller grass, it's built so the blades are currently, well, the blades run parallel with this part, so you can see you have a big opening in the front. It does pretty good with like tall grasses and stuff. A lot of the newer like Roll King farm store brand mowers, They're the same height all the way, and they don't take on weeds and grass and stuff like this one does. But it's not super heavy duty. It doesn't have a slip clutch. It doesn't have a stump jumper on it, nothing like that. So this tractor, you know, it's pretty safe to use it. It's like 19 horsepower, so you're not gonna really tear anything up. And it had the tractor seems to have plenty of power to run it. Like I said, it's just kind of a weight issue, and you know when you're turning there's a lot hanging out back there. It's nearly as long backwards as the tractor is frontwards, so you have to swing a lot of weight around. But let me start it up and I'll show you how fast it raises and lowers, give you an idea. It's pretty slow, but you can see how it performs. So there you go. You can see it's not a quick lifting hitch. That's just due to the pump flow and the cylinder size, but it works, and it's kind of inconvenient to have the power takeoff engaged, especially on something with a mower like this, but it works. So hopefully this was helpful to someone maybe looking to get one of these hitches, or looking to buy one of these tractors, or just if you were generally curious. But I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you on the next one.